There is a weed growing in the cracks of your sidewalk right now that produces more usable protein per acre than a cattle ranch, and it doubles its biomass in 48 hours. Not in ideal laboratory conditions, in standing water, in polluted ditches, in the runoff channels beside highways. The global livestock industry, worth $1.4 trillion, has spent decades making sure you associate protein with animals. What they buried was not just a plant. It was a system of food production that could feed the planet without a single acre of cleared forest. This is the story of duckweed, Wolfia globosa, Lemna minor, the smallest flowering plants on Earth, a single frond no larger than a pinhead. Collectively, they carpet the surfaces of ponds and slow-moving waterways across every inhabited continent. In Southeast Asia, they have a name that predates written history. In Thailand, they call it Kai Nam, water eggs. In Laos, they call it Phak Nam. In both countries, it has been harvested, dried, and eaten for over 1,000 years. But most Americans look at it and see algae, or pond scum. That perception did not happen by accident. In 1975, a team of researchers at the U.S. Department of Agriculture quietly published a nutritional analysis of Wolfia. The numbers did not match anything in the existing food system. Protein content between 35 and 45% of dry weight, comparable to soybeans, which had already become the dominant plant-based protein industry. Unlike soy, duckweed required no tilling, no fertilizer, no pesticide, no irrigation infrastructure. It grew on wastewater. It cleaned the water as it grew. It needed nothing the agricultural industry sold. The report was filed. Nothing followed. Here is where the story fractures. Soy did not become the dominant crop because it was the best option. It became dominant because it was patentable. The seed, the herbicide tolerance trait, the processing method, the isolation protein. Archer Daniels Midland, Cargill, and later, Monsanto built a combined infrastructure worth over $250 billion on that single crop. A competitor that grew on contaminated water, required no inputs, and could be harvested with a net, that was not a crop. That was a threat. The agricultural system does not suppress competitors by banning them. It suppresses them by never funding them. No research grants, no USDA development programs, no FDA pathway for novel aquatic foods. In the 1990s, FDA's novel food guidelines effectively quarantined duckweed into regulatory no man's land, not classified as a recognized food ingredient, not dangerous enough to ban, just invisible enough to ignore. Then came the scientists who would not let it stay buried. In 2013, a team at Wageningen University in the Netherlands published a landmark paper in the Journal of the Science of Food and Agriculture. They ran full amino acid profiling on Wolfia globosa against beef protein. The results were not close, they were disorienting. Duckweed contained all 9 essential amino acids. Its leucine profile, the amino acid most critical for muscle protein synthesis, matched beef. Its digestibility coefficient reached 90%. Comparable to egg white. Researchers called it a complete protein source requiring no complementing. Beef requires 20 kilograms of feed to produce 1 kilogram of protein. Duckweed produces 1 kilogram of protein from 4 kilograms of nutrient input from water that a soy farm would classify as waste. Per acre, annually, cattle ranching yields approximately 100 to 200 pounds of protein. Duckweed, cultivated in shallow water systems on the same footprint, yields between 6,000 and 10,000 pounds of protein. That number is not a projection. It is a measured result from production studies in Thailand, Vietnam, and the Netherlands, conducted between 2010 and 2019. In 2019, researchers at Rutgers University published a study measuring the environmental input per gram of protein across 12 food sources. Duckweed used 0.15 liters of water per gram of protein. Beef used 112 liters. The land use ratio was not a rounding error. It was a civilizational indictment. The biological mechanism is not complicated. Duckweed doubles its mass approximately every 16 to 48 hours depending on temperature and nutrient availability. It draws nitrogen and phosphorus directly from surrounding water, bioaccumulating those nutrients into plant tissue, protein being the primary structural output. The plant converts aquatic nitrogen waste, which is otherwise an environmental toxin, into edible amino acid chains. It does not require soil mineral cycles. It does not require dormancy. In tropical climates, it produces 365 days per year. In 2021, a study published in NPJ Science of Food from the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, analyzed Wolfia globosa as a complete food source. They grew human cell cultures on duckweed protein isolate. Muscle satellite cells, the precursor cells responsible for muscle repair, proliferated at rates statistically equivalent to whey protein controls. The study did not make the mainstream press. A clinical trial of a protein derived from pond water was not the kind of headline protein supplement companies wish to amplify. The protein supplement industry generates $21 billion annually in the United States alone. Whey, casein, soy isolate, pea protein. Every one of those products requires an extraction process, a factory, a supply chain, a shelf life management system, a cold chain in some cases. Duckweed can be dried in sunlight, ground into flour, and stored for 6 months without refrigeration. The processing cost per kilogram of duckweed protein is estimated between $2 and $4. Whey protein isolate retails between $25 and $50 per kilogram. The plant did not fail the food system. The food system was not designed for the plant. Meanwhile, in Laos, rural families collect kai nam from ponds every morning. They dry it on bamboo mats. They mix it into soups, curries, and fermented. Preparations. Infant supplementation programs in rural Laos use dried wolfia flour as a low-cost protein intervention for malnourished children. In 2017, a study by the Lao Tropical and Public Health Institute showed that children receiving duckweed supplemented meals recovered from acute malnutrition at rates comparable to expensive, imported commercial formulas at 3% of the cost. In America, pediatric protein malnutrition treatment protocols reference those commercial formulas exclusively. The pattern repeats. Amaranth, carrying 18% protein and drought resistance, was banned by conquistadors who recognized its independence from colonial supply chains. Moringa, offering 27% protein per dry weight, was dismissed as a developing world food too structurally informal for standardized processing. Fava beans, grown free in kitchen gardens for 4,000 years, were replaced by $45 protein powders. Any food that enables protein sovereignty, that grows without corporate input, harvests without corporate machinery, and stores without corporate infrastructure, is systematically made invisible. Not because it fails the human body, because it succeeds without them. Today, duckweed grows in every drainage channel, retention pond, irrigation ditch, and slow stream in North America. It is the green layer on standing water that homeowners treat with copper sulfate algicide, a product sold by a chemical industry that profits from them poisoning their protein supply. Fan-shaped mats, iridescent green, sitting so still on the water they look painted. Each frond the size of a lentil. Each frond 40% protein by dry weight. They are in every city, every suburb, every county in the country. They grow in the runoff water behind the same grocery store selling whey protein at $40 a tub. You have been walking past it your entire life. The question is not whether duckweed can feed people. 60 years of data, 3 continents, and dozens of peer-reviewed studies have settled that question without ambiguity. The question is what it costs economically and institutionally to let the answer be free. Abundance does not require control, and that precisely is why it disappeared. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell. Every like and every share preserves what they tried to erase. The next vault opens soon.